right, here we go. It's a daytime edition of the Nightcap. Do we when we do these, Aaron, during the day? Do we call them day drinking, or is that a little too?
1,000%. Because as soon as we finish with this, I'm firing up the smoker, and day drinking will commence.
The Bengals play tonight. I always try to acquiesce to Aaron's Bengals needs with the Bengals and Ravens tonight on Sunday Night Football. We're coming to you a little bit early before Aaron hops on the grill and I go to the hospital.
PTP
As always,
PTP has to cover the Bengals anyway. So
yeah. Make sure you visit our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off your order. I mean, Aaron, it's PTP. You don't actually have to watch the games to talk about them.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
I mean, that was just sitting there right in the...
Yeah, that's called an alley-oop.
Right in the wheelhouse. Had to throw it down. All right. AP and coaches poll out. Cincinnati at number 21 in both. They are ahead of Coastal Carolina. If they handle their business, they're going to be fine. Like, I know people are getting a little worried. That's because that's what fans do, is they worry about every little thing, and that's okay. That's how we have jobs. But this is a team that's in pretty good shape right now. Yeah, you got to keep winning.
In the coaches poll, there are 6 teams this week that have one loss ahead of Cincinnati. One team, Utah, is the only team ahead of them with 2 losses. Same thing in the AP. 6 teams with 1 loss, 1 team with 2 losses, and Utah sits right above Cincinnati in the AP.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've done to this point what they've needed to do. It's so funny to me, and I guess this is just, the nature of the beast, right? Watching like the difference between this year and last year, where like a game like this, they would have dropped 3 spots. Now you're talking about the top of the poll instead of the bottom. So there's a little tighter cluster of like who the elite teams are. But at the bottom of the poll, they move up 2 spots after a week where, I won't even say they struggled to beat South Florida. Like, I think it's funny that like Dave and I kind of had the same, or interesting at least, Dave and I had the same kind of take on the game without conversing at all really about that game. And you just got to tip your hat and say South Florida executed their game plan really well.
They moved up 3 spots in the AP.
Actually. Or 3 spots in the AP, yeah.
And in coaches, they were not ranked last week. So they jumped up, I believe, 5 spots.
5 spots, yeah. But you get my point. Like, a win at the bottom of the poll, regardless of who it's over, and you can continue to move up. When you're at the top of the poll and they're trying to dissect every reason you shouldn't be there.
Well, and I know you brought up Coastal, but James Madison is actually closer to Cincinnati than
But
Coastal.
That doesn't matter.
They're not part of the group of 5?
They can't. They are part of the group of 5. They're ineligible because they are a new team.
What a
that
dumb
has
rule.
Moved up. Yeah.
If
you're in, you're in. If you're in, you're in. Doesn't matter if it's your first year or you're in like a penalty phase. But yeah, James Madison can't participate in a bowl game. So they are irrelevant for this practice.
If you're good enough, it shouldn't matter at what point you got into Division I.
But it does. Them's the rules, Aaron. All right, let's get to everybody's favorite segment of the week.
Worst segment of the week.
Everybody's favorite, your worst segment of the week. Everybody else's favorite segment of the week because you're miserable, and people like it when you're miserable.
Yeah,
Well, I think here's what here's my read on this. Right, you're typically miserable on your own, like
that's
without
not true.
In this space, you're angry a lot.
There's a lot to be angry about. It's sports.
The people like contributing by making you angry.
That's fine. All right. First game on the docket was on Wednesday night Maction, except it wasn't Maction. It was the AAC. And
this was a result of the hurricane that moved the game. It was originally on Saturday, then they moved it to Sunday, then they moved it to Wednesday to avoid hurricane issues.
And SMU, UCF beat the brakes off SMU.
They are who we thought they were. Soft.
41-19 is your final score here. Tanner Mordecai chucked it 45 times, only completed 28 of them, 295 yards, 1 pick, no touchdowns. Rashi Rice continues to do Rashi Rice things as he had 12 catches for 122 yards. Although he did lose a fumble and Mordecai fumbled once as well, but they got it back. On the other side of the ball, UCF, John Rice Plumlee, 20-29, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns. And
how bad is your defense if that dude throws for 300 yards on you?
Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
He's not a passer, not known as a passer.
He's not a passer. He's not known as a passer. He's not a passer. He's a wide receiver or a running back playing quarterback.
Isaiah Bowser had 15 carries, 62 yards. 3 of them found pay dirt. UCF did have 2 receivers over 100 yards in Javon Baker and Ryan O'Keefe. Both of them had 6 catches, 1 for 138 yards. Ryan O'Keefe had 117 and 2 touchdowns. So
UCF is going to be a problem. I for a while I was a little bit more worried about SMU. UCF in the bounce house. Both of those games are going to be tough for this. This is not a dominant Cincinnati team. It's a good Cincinnati team that is getting better. It's not a dominant Cincinnati team. Both of those games on the road are going to be interesting. But especially with Plumlee's ability to run and the struggles we've seen so far from Cincinnati stopping a running quarterback, UCF is beginning to give me some pause as we head into that, Halloween week or whatever matchup in Orlando.
And there's your SMU UCF breakdown.
Houston, this should be fun.
Houston and Memphis matched up in Memphis. Houston wins 33-32.
What a cluster. How, if you're Memphis, how do you go forward with any faith in your coaching staff?
I don't.
After what happened?
I feel like you could say the same thing for Houston.
But they won.
But finally.
It was ugly. Finally. It was a miracle. It was a miracle.
But the last couple of weeks, you could have said the same thing about Houston. So we're 1 week removed from being able to say the same thing about.
Well, yeah, I don't have any. That didn't restore my faith in Dana Holgerson.
About the Houston Flying Red Bulls.
Memphis was up 27-7 in the fourth quarter and lost.
There's a reason Memphis is not going to another conference.
That's fair. I mean for Memphis, everything was setting up well. If they were able to close this game out, they allowed a punt return for a touchdown, a turnover, like everything humanly possible that you could screw up in a game that you had a 99.9% chance to win. Their win probability was 99.9, Aaron.
That's bananas.
And they took the L. And it was 99.9 with like 3 minutes to go in the game. 4 minutes to go in the game.
Clayton Tune goes 36-57 for 366 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Outside of that, Sam Brown had 9 catches, 116 yards. Nathaniel Dell's putting together a nice little season. 10 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown. On the other side of the ball, Memphis, Seth Hannigan, 21 of 32 for 241 and a touchdown. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't watch this game. Gabriel Rogers came in and was 1 of 2 for 41 yards and a touchdown. That's their wide receiver. So I guess they're running some trickery, not once but twice.
Houston stinks, and Memphis. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you give up a 3-score lead with like 2 minutes left in the game.
Who has more stability than as far as the coaching hot seat goes?
I mean, if you're
How
if you're
long
Memphis,
how long does Dana Holgerson's best friend being one of the
Tillman for Tita for Tata?
largest boosters at Houston last? Like at
Not
some
one
point,
of. Not one of.
okay,
Dude's a
the biggest,
billionaire. Yeah, dude's a billionaire.
the Fertitta Center.
Yeah, with spinach, red peppers.
Only way to do it.
I don't like. They have said they are on record saying not good enough. Like 7-8 win seasons are not good enough at Houston. I don't know where the hell they got that notion, but their president is on record. AD, that's not good enough. 7-8 wins. We're better than that. And now you've got a guy that. Here's what I wonder: if this continues, does he retire? Maybe he looks like he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Well, once Houston's in the Big 12, certainly not going to cut it, right?
Well, West Virginia wasn't all that upset that he left, right?
And he looks like a Mountaineer.
He was one of them. Go to the casino, play some slots, hammer some Red Bull and vodka, rip some heaters.
Sounds about right.
Memphis, I mean, you're 3 years removed now from winning the AAC championship, and that looks miles away at this point.
Well, that's because White was there for what, 7 years, 8 years.
Time, yeah.
I think he completed 2 doctorates.
But Memphis should have more than enough talent. Like they're in a place that you should be able to recruit to fairly easily. I don't know. I would guess Memphis is probably a little toastier of a seat just because of Holgerson's relationship with Fertitta. But I wouldn't feel comfortable at either spot.
I wouldn't either. I'll be surprised if one of those coaches is going to be gone by the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't think they'll fire Dana, I guess is my point. But the way he has looked and sounded, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just like, you know what?
Mailing it in.
I'm done.
Collecting a paycheck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can tell how interested we are. About as interested as Dana Holgerson is in his own team. ECU.
Good segue.
ECU loses to Tulane in Tulane 24-9. Holton Ahlers, 32 of 51, 288, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. I feel like they're just playing a game at this point. Which Holton Ahlers is going to show up? Tulane, on the other hand, Michael Pratt, 27 to 34, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't really carry it much. 9 carries, negative 16 yards, but one of them was for a touchdown. Michael Pratt.
Yeah. Again, ECU. If it's not going to be now, when is it going to, Holton Ahlers played his first year with ECU. I think Tom Brady was still at Michigan.
He's on his COVID year. There is no more after this year for Holton Ahlers. I do not think, unless somehow he has a medical red shirt that I don't know about, that he's just been hanging in his closet for a while.
9-year veteran Colton Ahlers back out there for ECU. They're 3-3, right?
Yeah.
Oh, are they 1-1 in the conference? Yeah, they're 1-1, right? But they have to be better, and you have to give Tulane credit. They're on the come up. They're
5-1.
I think probably the biggest threat other than UCF. I think this is becoming a Cincinnati, UCF, Tulane, and they all play. So there's a round robin there. I think those 3 are separating a little bit from the pack. But, man, you have to feel like if you're ECU, if you win this game, you could have kind of started to feel a little control of your own destiny. And now you're just kind of back in the pack again.
Tulane 2-0 in conference. They're sitting right there with Cincinnati and UCF, undefeated in conference. All of those teams at 1 loss overall in the season. So
I'm sure.
The next game and last game outside of obviously Cincinnati and South Florida, Tulsa and Navy. Woof.
Did the Bearcats break the Golden Hurricane?
Tulsa drops to 2-4, losing 53-21 to Navy. The midshipmen.
That's a Navy team that's offense has been putrid this season.
They're lucky to hit 250 yards total offense in any game they play.
Yeah.
They had 35 yards passing, going 2 of 8 for 1 touchdown. Collectively, I'm not even going to try and pronounce some of these names. But they rushed the ball 69 times, the midshipmen did.
Nice.
For 455 yards and 5 touchdowns. Leading the way was Daba Fofana. 21 carries.
Fofana, banana fana, Fofana.
21 carries, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns.
And this, like, if you look at those numbers, this wasn't a bunch of big plays. This was just...
There was one 70-yard run in all fairness.
But this wasn't a bunch of big plays. Like, it's not like they stacked these numbers. They
Fofana had a long of 47.
Fofana, banana fana,
and other running backs, Point and Lane, had longs of 26 and 28. But yeah, I mean, nothing outrageous where you
death by 1,000 cuts.
Sure.
Which is what the Naval Academy and the triple option can do to you. And that's how you get those 20, 30-yard runs, is they just get 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. Boom, 25 yards. 3 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. Boom, 25 yards.
The corpse of Davis Brin was out there as a marionette, and he threw 20 of 31 for 284 yards.
Ichabod Brin.
I guess. Two touchdowns.
Season.
2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Keelan Stokes had a huge game again. 7 catches, 152 yards, a touchdown.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
But Tulsa, woof. Like, at least the thought, I'm sure, had to be, okay, we got 1 loss. Let's run the table. Our only loss will be to Cincinnati, and we'll meet them again in the championship game.
Yeah.
You just gave up 53 to Navy.
It's bad.
You're going to struggle for bowl eligibility at this point. The only place they might be going is the toilet bowl.
It's bad.
It's a really bad dad joke for you.
I ignored it. But like I said, leading the conference right now, you have Cincinnati, Tulane, UCF. Behind them with 1 loss, Memphis, Navy, and Houston. That's where we're at in the conference.
We'll get to plenty more UC USF tomorrow night on the BBP. If you missed the Bearcat Brunch, it's up in video form on YouTube and podcast form on your favorite podcast app.
Twitch also.
Make sure Twitch also. Reagan has her 2-minute warning up on all the social media outlets, so make sure you check that out. Like, subscribe, all the press conferences. We have everything you need. We have a great Brent article summarizing the game. You've got Brendel's Bites. Tomorrow morning, you'll get Carrie's Upon Further Review. It's a bye week this week, and I'm going to try to get Kelly home, so I might have my foot off the gas a little bit this week to kind of recharge, but there will still be tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of content coming up as we go into the bye week. All right, he's Aaron Smith. I'm Chad Brendel. We'll see you next time. It's the Day Drinking Cap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
The AAC makes you want a day drink. See ya!